Hey y'all, it's Melaluna back again. Some Omega Energy. I'd like to help you out and understand the masculine and feminine energy that landed in your birth chart. If you haven't had a full understanding of that yet, I'm here to tell you about it in the simplest way I possibly can do that. The reason why we want to understand our masculine and feminine energy is maybe if you'd like to use it more efficiently for yourself, or just to know that out of curiosity. Either way, I'm here to help. All right. So we understand our basic birth chart. We have the sun, we have the moon, we have Mercury, Venus, Mars, we have Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Pluto, and all those things. Okay? Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Hope I have that in the right order, but I got all the planets. Anyway, we understand astrologically from a astrologer's perspective. We understand the masculine and feminine aspect of the self in this way. Go with the elements: water, earth, feminine energy. This is going to lend itself to more nurturing energy, nesting energy. This is like your builders and directors of energy. Okay, think about the feminine aspect if you'd like to. If it helps you, think about femininity versus masculinity and all of the trait energy that goes along with that. Okay, masculine energy is fire and air. Okay, now before I tell you the rest, we have to make sure the babies who don't understand these elements understand what we're looking at when we say earth, water, feminine. We're talking about Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio are the water energies and water signs. Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. Write that down for yourself. Pause if you need to. The earth signs, earth energy, which is also feminine, is Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn. I know Capricorn is the eyeball out, ain't it? Capricorn don't feel feminine, but it is. Okay. Same thing with Scorpio. It don't feel like a water sign. It feel more like a fire sign. That's why I call it spicy water or fire water. Anyway, I won't confuse you. Anyway, those are the feminine energies. The masculine energies, air and fire. Fire signs: Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries. Air signs, also masculine: Aquarius, Libra, and Gemini. These are your masculine energies that can be found in your chart. Now, will all your planets have all 12 signs? No, there are only 10 planets, so and some of them repeat themselves, as I was talking about in the previous video, in stelliums. So you may not have all 12 represented there. They'll be cusping of the signs, but you'll see that in your karmic wheel and see if you understand such things. But just for the planet's purpose, count. This is how I do it. You can do it different. You can do one by one to make sure and check yourself, but this is how I do it. I look for all the feminine energies first. And that means I'm looking for earth and water signs in the 10 planets that I've just told you about. Yes, we include the sun, moon, and Pluto. These are planets for the purposes of astrology, as well as the rest of the planets that are in your birth chart. And I'm looking for water and I'm looking for earth out of 10. Okay? And so, depending upon how many earth and water, the rest is masculine, just by process of elimination. Okay? So, if somebody has 4 water/earth placements, we already know by going through all those 10 that they have 6 masculine placements. This is the reason why we want to understand and know this. Like I said, it could be just curiosity. I want to know my masculine and feminine breakdown from birth. Because over time, you can judge that, balance in some way. Some of the purpose of learning in this lifetime, at least from my perspective, is to balance some of that out anyway. Having your masculine and feminine energies in some way balanced. Whereas you're not overly feminine which would lead you open to um, and sometimes harm and danger. Because if you're overly soft, and I don't know if y'all seen this world, if you're overly soft and gentle things in this world, unless you are a puppy, and even in those cases, in some situations that are sick, you may not be 100% safe. You need to be able to every now and again bark or bite if necessary, and that's where your masculine energy comes in. But if you're overly masculine, you can be in that some way threatening and off-putting all the time without even recognizing that that is harmful to self and other people. So that is also harmful to you because it'll lead self to a very lonely existence. And that's not something that human beings are meant to have, believe it or not, even for you loners out there. So balancing that out is beneficial to the individual as well as the community. So we say, okay, if a person, for the example, has 6-4, in other words, they have 4 planets that are feminine, that's leading to their personality, and 6 planets that are masculine, how is this presenting itself in that person's everyday life in general? Are there things that it's strengthening? Are there things that it's causing complications or challenges with? If those things are present, now we can figure out how we can inject more femininity, into those areas. How one balances that out using your own birth chart as a guide. If you know that you're not at that 5-5 place, I was born with that. For example, there are some people around the world that were born with their masculine and feminine energies in their birth charts already balanced. And they can do what they want with that. You can do things to mess that structure up by becoming more. Every single time, this is just my little caveat and little side note and opinion based on experience, education, and things of this nature. Those of you who were born with that 5-5 split, where you were born with those things balanced and unchallenged in your chart, the way you can tilt the scales or mess that up is not leaning into your femininity when you need to lean into it. You have that equally balanced and abundance, or not leaning into your masculinity when you need to. In other words, being overly soft and forgiving and not protective of oneself and giving oneself the self-love before nurturing everybody else that you need to. I've been a victim of this to my own self, and I had to learn it. Or being overly challenging towards self and others, and you tilting the balance of your own self. Okay, so keep that balance. Always figure out which one is best for you and your circumstances, and not just in the present but long term, whenever you're at a critical point in your life where you have to make decisions and govern yourself. At least that's been my assessment of the situation, and y'all can take it if you need it or want to use it. And that'll go true for any state of balancing one's feminine and masculinity out. Okay? You want to balance out that masculine energy a little bit more, be a little softer to yourself in your environment, immediate environment, until you get good at that before you branch out. Because I can tell you from experience with myself and people that I've taught, sometimes the overcorrection of the masculine energy, when you feel like, okay, I've used this a lot or too much in some way, and that is somehow hindered me. Overcorrection can look like, all right, the love and lighters. That's only, everything's all love and light. That's an overcorrection to your masculine energy in my assessment. Because if you're all love and light, then when somebody punch you in the face, what you doing? You just gonna let them do that? Or we gonna talk about it? Or you gonna tell your students, your clients, or whoever else is watching you be all love and light all the time? What they do in the face of having to protect themselves? Or what do they do when they have to actually compete for a position? Because sometimes in this place, you have to compete. I don't always like that, but you sometimes do have to compete. What happens when you have to compete to survive or get what you need to thrive? If your masculine energy is shut all the way down, you ain't gonna have no energy for that. Okay? So your way of doing that is finding the balance within it that works well for you as well as your environment. And if you choose to have people within that environment, you're going to have to balance out those masculine and feminine energies in that way too. And this is where it's crucial to understand where you have feminine energy, where you have masculine energy, and where the balance needs to come. And this is the part where you can actively participate in your own growth and healing by seeing what house it's sitting in, and then moving that a step further and say, okay, I have, say for instance, in that scenario, that person would have an abundance of masculine energy. Well, where does those masculine planets sit? We're not looking at the feminine energy to increase it yet. We're looking at the masculine energy because I have an abundance of that. If I'm 6'4", 6 being masculine, 4 being feminine, at the 6 point, I want to figure out what houses and planets, what they govern, and what house it's sitting in to figure out if I've done things in my life up until now and start analyzing the things I've done that were challenging or detrimental towards myself, and if that was me acting out of too much or an abundance of masculine energy, and then try to figure out a way in which I want to correct that or I want to balance that out, and what areas of my life I can do that in. That's why the house placement as well as the planet and what area it governs is important, because it'll tell you, I'm gonna be just real like blunt about this next part so we can get it. Here's where you can see where you fucked up and how you fucked up and what you can do about it. Right after looking at that, for the example of a 6'4" chart or something like it, you can start saying, okay, where can I inject more softness, femininity, nurturing energy into that specific area of my life? If you found that leading up to now, you've had an overabundance of masculine energy which caused you issue before this time, regardless of the players or actors in it, because we're all teaching each other and walking each other home. But you wanted a different result? How you get that different result is not changing anybody else, it's changing the self. To have some kind of guideline or guidebook to doing that, look at your birth chart. See where you have an overabundance of either feminine or masculine energy, and then work out of that. Operate understanding you're trying to balance that out. And be methodical and order your steps in such a way that you're injecting more protection, challenging yourself to do better in areas that you have maybe too much feminine energy. If that balance was different, in the example I given where you have 6 feminine and 4 masculine, that means that you operate out a bit more feminine energy than masculine energy. And there are times when you were probably taken advantage of when you were I was the good person in that situation. I gave him my whole heart, pulled the shirt off my back and gave it to him literally. And it kicked me in my ass. It's because you were operating out of too much feminine energy. The first time they messed you over, you had indicators. Everybody has intuition that they was going to do that. You should probably have protected yourself a little bit more and gave a little bit less. Doesn't mean that you just cut people off. I'm quick to do that, by the way. Doesn't mean that you just cut people off, but you can reserve a little bit more of your resources, energetically and otherwise, for yourself. Once you come to understand that this person is not going to do you any good long term, or they're not going to be reciprocal with their energy, you take a little bit of your energy back. You say, I like being around this person, hanging out with them, spending time with them, but I'm not going to put my all into this because I have indicators at this time that I should be protective of my energy of myself. That's how you can do that. Reflect upon past situations in which you've had those type of things occur and realize, okay, now I need to be a bit more masculine. Person who starts to say, I'm starting to protect my own energy, this is a person who is operating out of their masculine energy. Okay? For example. So I hope that has helped y'all with the understanding of masculine and feminine energy breakdowns. And astrologically, in astrology, every single human being on the planet has a masculine and feminine breakdown in their charts. And a lot of females, especially nowadays because of circumstance, have been born with an abundance of masculine energy. Males have been born with a lack of masculine energy, many of them. You can see that in the astrological charts based on what I just told you. Now you can say, well, I don't believe in astrology. You don't have to, honey. If you hear, you have some idea of what you want to learn about it, just learn about it. And if you want to dismiss the information, go ahead and do that. But I've had enough experiences for myself, my clients, and my peeps to give it some validity. Not just some, a lot. And if nothing else, at least if you don't tell nobody about your personal journey into astrology, I choose to tell everybody because I'm not ashamed of it. But you decide to use it as a tool to give yourself an advantage for yourself to have better outcomes and less challenges in your life, then do that. Just knowing that femininity and masculinity has very little to do, energetically, has very little to do with your genitalia in this sense. Anyway, y'all loved.